everyone, and welcome to Writing with Witches. This is a podcast where we are both writers and witches, and we talk about all things bookish related, and we give some witchy tips along the way. My name is Nicole Autumn. I am a published author with 3 books out, and the fourth in my series is hopefully going to come out at the end of this year. And my co-host is
I am Leona Urbanski. I am an author with my debut novel coming out early next year, and yeah, I'm still recovering from a cold. So, as my mother puts it, forgive the sexy voice. Why she decided to call it that, I don't know.
the sexy voice. So like being all stuffed up is your
The
sexy voice.
raspy, gross. Like what the heck?
Like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I'm like, that's an odd thing to call it, but okay, we'll go with it.
That is funny. So we can start this episode off with book news. I am currently deep in revisions. I have just gotten to chapter 8 or 9 in revisions. So I've made progress because I was sitting at like chapter 5 for 2 weeks. But now all of my kids are in school. I can get it done. So I've made progress. Do you have any book news?
It's about the same. I have reached I've just revised chapter 7, but I guess technically it would be chapter 9 because there's the prelude and one of the interludes in there. So technically chapter 9. But thanks to the Finch app, I now have a goal of revising a chapter daily.
I did not. So
I
that
don't
was the thing.
know
I
how I did.
I couldn't change it from daily. And I was like, "No, I just want us to finish a chapter today, not every day." Because I know
And
you have so much going on.
to be fair, that was kind of my goal anyway, and things just kind of. So if you watched our last episode, if you noticed me just like going further and further downhill, the next day I came down with this really nasty, nasty cold. Like I called into work and everything. I don't usually do that, and I'm still recovering from that. I
Yeah.
have been every time Nicole like messages me, I like answer her 2 hours later. It's like I was asleep.
And now I'm like starting to wonder, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, should I even message her? She might be sleeping."
But I'm on the recovery. I can tell I'm on the recovery because I was able to make it through most of the day without a Dayquil, without wanting to die. So I'm getting
Yeah.
there.
That's always a good sign, when you're not having to take the cough medicine or like the medicines in general without feeling like you're dying of the plague. So,
Yeah. So probably not going to meet my chapter goal today. Not going to lie, because I'm probably going to pass out after this recording.
that's
But tomorrow.
fair. That is fair. And I don't know why, but for some reason I completely spaced that it was like I knew it was Friday, but I was like, wait, it's Friday. And even my husband, like, I would say 3 hours ago, he was like, "You're filming tonight, right?" And I was like, "Oh fuck, it's Friday. It's Friday." I was like, "You stupid ass." That's when I was immediately like, "Oh, what time are you wanting to podcast?" Because I was still like in cozy ear clothes, like a hot mess, hair and bun, like it was a hot mess. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot."
No, that's totally fair. I remembered, but that's why I was like, I'm. I went to sleep after work so I could do this.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Anyway, so the revisions. That's my book
Yes.
news.
And we are on the topic of editing this episode. The big question of should you do it yourself? Should you do
To do
it
yourself.
yourself or hire an editor to do it for you? So I will say, for me, editing is doing the fine tuning. So, checking for grammatical errors, making sure your commas are in the right places, you have all of your, you know, periods and all that stuff, plus spelling mistakes, sentence structure, like fixing just the way things are maybe written. I do some of that during revisions if they're just awful. But there's always times where you can go back and just fine tune things so it flows a little better. So for me, that's what editing means. Is I we talked about this in the revisions episode. Is it's that, like you said, the granular things of doing the small technical bits that are just not always the funnest.
Yeah, and it's definitely the granular things. You can go out a little bit wider view on it. Like we talked about tenses in the past, and so that is
Yes.
definitely something you need to take the wider perspective on. Um, to a point, tone can also be adjusted with editing, just because of syntax, word choice, sentence structure, that kind of thing. But yeah, I agree. It is that fine tuning, putting the finishing touches on, making sure that it flows well. You know, you supposedly in revisions you should have smoothed out all of the story related stuff like plot holes and um, anything else related to that. So this is kind of, you've gotten the soul of it down. This is fixing up the body of it and finishing your Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right. So with that, with editing, there's two ways you can go about it. You can do it yourself, which there are benefits to doing it yourself. You can really emphasize your voice when you edit yourself because you don't have an outside person coming in and saying, "Hey, this needs to go here or that goes there." You can really fine tune how you want your characters to come off, the scenes to come off, all because of those things like word choices and your em dashes or your ellipses or your commas to emphasize tone. And so your voice is very much your voice in the book. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, it's I was actually just, I wasn't phasing out on you. I was thinking I actually have a beta reader that we actually kind of gone back and forth on a point in Fire Magic about a specific type of capitalization, and I was insisting that it needed to be done this way for the story to be told, and she's like, "Well, but grammatically, this is the way it should be." And she was, it's in best intentions. So like, I don't hold anything against her about her. She was just trying to,
Yeah.
and it was me going, "Okay, I get what you're saying, but this is the way I want it told." So in a way that me pushing my viewpoint on that, to me, kind of kept the integrity, not integrity, but the what I wanted to, how I wanted to convey this world
Yeah.
and its biases. Um, so yeah, emphasizing your voice by doing the self editing is, that's just kind of an example of that, because that is something that editor could potentially have done.
Yeah. The second part and the big one is it saves a lot of money. A lot of money because editors are expensive. And not saying that they are not worth it, but if you don't have a budget for editing, because editors can cost anywhere from, 400, $500 upwards to thousands of dollars, depending on how big your manuscript is, because a lot of the times they charge per word, depending on what type of editing you're doing. And at this point, it would be things like line editing. So they are going to charge you per word. And if you have a big, beefy novel, you would pay out the nose for an editor. So, in that aspect, money is a huge saver if you do it yourself.
And I think that's actually one of the um I'm hesitant to say perks, but it's one of the taking away the gatekeeping of publishing nowadays, because before you it always ran through an editor before it was published, especially with the traditional. And but indie publishers now, it's definitely that's it's removed one of those gatekeeping methods in my mind by
Yeah.
you know we can still put good books out there even if we can't afford an editor you know
Yeah. That's fair. And I think with that, also, when you edit yourself, you start learning how to edit. With every book you do, you get better and better at it. I mean, and I have Leona to bounce my book off of, and she has her English degree. So I get a little bit of cheaty help. But from reading her books and having her, look over mine and say, hey, this is not right. You need a comma here, because the commas are my thing. I've learned through having her check mine and going back and forth and reading each other's stuff that you start to learn the right way to write things. So it is grammatically correct. Things are spelled correctly. Your commas are in the right places, and you break the rules where you know you can. So even if you don't start off the greatest at self editing, it is a skill that you can learn and get better at the more you do it. So that is another benefit that I kind of just thought right off the top of my head that I didn't write down on the on it, because you kind of already covered the last point, which was prioritizing how you want the story to be told versus maybe it not being technically correct.
Sorry, I skipped it on. So, fun
You're
fact,
good.
I
Yeah.
have influenced Nicole enough. I sent her, I'm used to reading, and this is not a comment on yours at all. I'm used to reading hot garbage, technically, because I was a writing workshop tutor in my college.
Mm-hmm.
So, I got the gamut of what could and would go wrong. So, it doesn't bother me per se. Like, I will be kind of like mentally fixing it in my head, but I can still read it without a
Yeah.
problem. Okay. So I just recently sent Nicole some fan fiction for K-pop Demon Hunters, and this is my influence on Nicole. She's like, "Oh my god, how can you read this?" I was like, "It's not that bad. I've seen worse." And she's like, "But the double commas and the," I was like,
The triple commas for periods, for ellipses, was driving me absolutely insane. I got through it because it was hot, but I was just like, oh my god, if I see another triple comma in place of an ellipses, I'm gonna lose it.
it was pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie, considering I've kind of seen how you're. I'm not saying yours was ever that
Yeah.
incorrect, technically incorrect, but just seeing how yours have evolved in the books that I've been reading from you. Once you hand me those final revisions and I kind of
Yeah.
do a little bit of line editing for you, it's just kind of funny.
I know.
I have biased her.
You have definitely influenced how I read things now. So when you recommend something and it's not up to Leona's standards, I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? What is this? But
to
no,
be
those
fair,
those fanfics were good though.
to be fair, I was pretty drugged up on NyQuil when I read those, so that probably counted for a lot.
Probably that helped you overlook a lot, because there were definitely some things that I was like, that was a choice. Whether it was like word placed, like word choice, or like those stinking comma ellipsy things that they were doing, I'm like, yeah, I could see how NyQuil might be influencing you just a smidgen.
Yeah, so, anyway, so funny story.
Yeah. Um, so is there any other benefits that you can think of writing, editing
I mean,
yourself?
honest. honestly, those are the two primary ones, like you said, emphasizing your voice and saving money, and like you said, doing anything is going to increase the skill of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And please, please, please don't use AI to edit your stuff. I
No.
beg you, please don't use it.
No.
Learn how to do it yourself. Google shit to figure out if you're doing something wrong or not. Um, do the research.
Do the research.
Because it's only going to benefit you in the end. Because if you go in and you learn how to do this and you're editing it yourself, that is going to make it easier when you write your next book, because you're already going to be in line with doing that kind of stuff. So you're going to have less mistakes. I'm not saying you're not going to have any mistakes. We all make mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
But you're going to have less mistakes in the future.
Yeah.
Like, not having a triple comma ellipses.
And with that, I would also say, oh shit, I had a point. What was it? Those triple ellipses got me. Oh, the Googling. So my point to this is I could use AI, right, to fix my is's and r's, but I was like, okay, I get caught on this one all the time on whether it should be is or are, and it drives, or isn't or aren't. It drives me absolutely freaking bananas. So I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to Google this shit. Why am I constantly swapping these? And it all came down to, oh, well, is one singular or plural that you're talking about? And I was like, oh, it was that simple. Now I know. So even if it is something as simple as switching up your is's and r's, just Google it and why you keep it getting marked wrong, like why you get your little squigglies underneath it, because that one was driving me absolutely bananas. And to me, I thought clothing was also plural. It's not. It's considered singular. So I was like, fine, clothes are. I was getting so irritated with that stupid sentence. I'm like, why is this flipping wrong? This doesn't sound right. It doesn't roll off the tongue right. Why does this sound weird? So yeah, Google the rules and it will save you headaches down the line.
I'll also say, if Google itself is not giving you the answers you want, Purdue, Purdue, OWL Lab is also a really good resource for writing. I primarily use it in my scholarly papers for MLA and APA citations, but they also just have generic writing advice there too. So it's always a good resource there if Google isn't giving you the answers you need.
Yeah, because Google isn't perfect either.
No, it's not. Especially since they threw AI in the top of every search.
Oh my god, that sucker's driving me nuts.
I'm like, scroll as fast as possible to get past.
Right? Like, give me down to the actual website information, please. So, on to the drawbacks. Okay, so obviously with benefits, there are drawbacks to editing yourself. One being, you will probably have a lot of missed mistakes because you have read your novel over and over and over and over and over again, probably 10, 12, 13, 15 times, right? If you're not sick of reading it by the time you're done, you didn't read it enough. And with that, your brain already knows what you wrote, so you don't read every single word. Your brain's like, we've already read this, we know it. You'll skim it, essentially. And that is how mistakes pop up, because you don't have that second set of eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's where, and I think we've given this advice in the past too. If you are editing it yourself, then I definitely highly suggest doing one or both of these things, putting it in a different font so that it forces your brain to read it afresh, or reading it out loud. Because reading it out loud, if you have the time and the energy, which does take a lot, I'm not going to argue with that, it will force your brain to really have to read those words in order to process it out through your mouth. And that is going to help you catch mistakes.
Yeah. I've noticed my big thing is I tend to not do contractions. I will write out both words, and then when you go to read it, you're like, oh, that sounds very forced. Let me make a contraction there. So reading it out loud can really help with the flow of things and the way you write it out. So definitely good advice if you can do it and your voice can handle it, because that takes a lot out of you. How narrators do it, I don't know.
Lots of practice.
Lots of practice, lots of tea, from what I've heard. So yeah. Another drawback, which is more so coming from an outside perspective of being a reader, is your book, if not edited well, because you did it yourself, and if you don't have the knowledge of, you know, grammar rules and spelling and stuff, and you don't have someone that you can bounce it off that has an English degree, your book could fall under that it was a badly edited book, right? That category of books, which would suck, won't lie. But that is a risk you take when you edit yourself.
Yeah, and it's a hard barrier to get past once that barrier is out there, because I'm not going to lie, if I've read a book and it is really badly edited and I paid for it, I'm probably not going to pick up another one by that author.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a personal. I am an English snob. I'm not going to lie. There's a reason I have 2 degrees in English. Okay. So you're going to find people like me that aren't as forgiving and willing to, like, it's one thing to go read fan fiction, which is free on the internet for anyone to read and be forgiving of it, or to work on other students' papers. But if I'm going to be paying for a work, and as we have established, I will pay for the bound copy of this book unless you only offer an ebook format, then I'm going to want it to, you know, not fall into that category.
Yeah.
And if it does, I'm probably not going to keep it, and I'm probably not going to buy from that author again. So
yeah,
it's a risk to take.
It is. And that, I won't lie, I can read some things that are not perfect. But if I am reading something and it is so badly written, again, I'm in the same boat as you at this point. Like, if it is so bad, I'm like, I'm washing my hands clean of it. I'm not getting anything else from that author. Whether or not I finish the book is also up for debate, because I've read some where I was just like, that was absolute hot garbage. Which it feels shitty to say that as someone that also does self-editing, but there are those people that just may not take the time to do it, or just don't know how, that they fall into that category. And again, like we said, that's a risk you take with self-editing. So with that kind of goes hand in hand that it's possible your book isn't going to be the best it could be. If you are looking at it yourself with no one else's help, you're almost kind of like in your own echo chamber of editing, and you're like, oh, well, this is as good as it's going to get. But if you don't have anyone else saying, oh, well, what about this? I don't know about this line. This comes off awkward. Or you say so 3-4 times in 3 sentences, you know, it gets repetitive and annoying. I'm saying that because I literally caught this in my own book earlier. Like, so I'm like deleting every so I find, or the I feel, or I thinks. And I'm like, oh my God, we get it, bitch. Like, you think, you feel, let's get it over it. Like, erase it. So coming from someone that is struggling with those issues, if you don't notice them, you know, your book's not going to be the best it's going to be if you don't have an additional person look at it, whether you're paying someone or even handing it over to someone else to read and edit for you as like just a swap off, right? Because that's what we do. We swap back and forth so we can catch each other's mistakes. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I would say it's likely not going to be the best it could be.
Yeah. And it's just, it depends on your experience too. Like I'm if I didn't have the experience that I had, I would probably be trying my best. Even with the experience that I have, I'm kind of trying to figure out if I can budget for an editor, because it is a good idea to have that other person. Frankly, I don't think I'm going to be able to budget for it. And so I just have to, cross my fingers. And between myself, my mother, and my sister, who are all English people, hopefully we catch everything so it doesn't fall into that category of badly edited.
Oh, it
Which
won't.
I don't think it will, but
It's not.
uh, I'm a perfectionist, you know that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then unfortunately, yeah, again, it's a risk you take when you're doing self-editing, unfortunately. You have to do what you can, and use all the resources that you have.
Yeah.
To try and move past that.
Definitely. So. And that brings us to our witchy tip of the episode, which is talking about, excuse me, kitchen witchery. We talked about inconspicuous witchcraft, 2 episodes ago, I believe. So with that, kitchen witchery, and I think Green Witch was also another one, but kitchen witchery specifically was considered inconspicuous. So we wanted to dive into what that is a little, which, I mean, it's kind of in the name, which is that to do their magic in the kitchen.
Yeah, love it.
Just a smidge.
It's only 6 letters, 7 letters. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. There's letters. I mean, there's letters. So with that, there is, I know a really popular one is tea and coffee rituals, and just setting your morning intentions, stirring your tea a certain way, and chanting what you want for the day over it. Even special blends for your teas can be its own spell or ritual. So there is that as well. I don't do this as much as I used to, just because now I drink protein coffees, and I'm not sure how witchy protein coffee can be.
I've been doing it a little more at work, oddly enough, because I mean, the first thing I drink, not gonna lie, is a bottle of Coke, because I've been struggling with the caffeine lately. But yeah. I usually do have, I keep tea at work, so I have been kind of trying to remember to do that at work when I'm steeping the tea. And again, you can do it fairly inconspicuously. No one's going to look at you if you're just stirring your tea,
Yeah.
You don't have to say this shit out loud. Just say it in your head.
Get me through this fucking day. No, I'm just kidding. Another one is baking with intentions and specific herbs. Because again, a lot of witchcraft herbs are in your pantry, in your spice cabinet. So baking an herb bread with specific breads or specific herbs with certain intentions. I mean, I've even seen people, doing their sourdough loaves and cutting sigils into it, or symbols, or whatever the case may be, and then baking that bread, and boom, magic.
Yeah.
Magic bread.
Magic bread. I mean, I do that because I do harvest loaves, and I have this adorable little pan that has this little they're mini loaves, and there's a squirrel on one and little pumpkins on it. Anyway,
that's cute.
And so it is adorable. I will bake little mini harvest loaves to take to holidays and give to my family. And I mean, every one of those, I bake intentions into it just as kind of, um, well giving and peace and
Yeah.
all those kinds of intentions that would come that your family you like.
I was gonna say, don't piss her off or
But
she's
it's
gonna
not.
hex your bread.
So, it's that's what I do. I don't necessarily use specific herbs unless I'm really, going for a stronger kind of magic. I'll typically just use intentions in the bread. So
Yeah.
herbs are what I put in my simmer pots. That's where I really am picky.
There is simmer pots too, and I know that it there's so many different recipes for simmer pots for all different kinds of intentions. So, I mean, probably the best place to find them is literally what, Pinterest or like YouTube. Just Google your or not Google, search simmer pots and you will have tons of recipes with the intentions and what you're wanting to draw in or get rid of. There's that too. Um,
Yep,
I love simmer pots because they make your house smell amazing. On top of it
they do.
being, witchcraft, they smell so damn good.
My husband absolutely loves it when I do simmer pots because I, without fail, will put clove and cinnamon in there, and he
Yeah.
loves. Like he just recently picked up. We were at CVS to pick up some other things, and he found a little cinnamon broom, and he's like,
Oh,
"Oh,
those smell
this
so
smells really
good.
good." I was like, "Pick it up, man." I was like, "That's witchcraft right there. I'm totally cool with that." He's like, "Well, what do I do with it?" I was like, "You just hang it up in the kitchen." And he's
Yeah.
like, okay, so we have a little cinnamon broom. Hey, so yeah, that's another way to do kitchen witchery too. But yeah, he loves it when I put on the simmer pots because it goes. Well, I'm curious how it's going to go through the house in this new house because the other house, the kitchen was kind of central, and we could smell it everywhere. So I'm curious how it's going to spread in
Yeah.
this house.
Yeah, that's always fun with the cinnamon and the cloves and apple and orange. It like, oh, it smells so good.
And I mean,
Um,
yeah, definitely look up recipes if you want, but I know I will just look up like, okay, what do I want to, what herbs do I have on hand? What do they mean? Which ones can I throw in there that will do what I want to do it? Or and putting in the apples and oranges and any other fruit that needs to be gotten rid of in there.
I'll be honest, I'm lazy. I got one of those little like signs that say kitchen witchery on it and it has all the like typical kitchen herbs and their like
Oh, nice.
properties above them that's like prosperity, use this. If you want protection, use this or and I'm like it's literally sitting up right in my kitchen next to my toaster. So I
I
have
love
it on
that.
hand at all times so I don't have to continue to look things up. It's just right there cuz I'm lazy.
No, that is not laziness. That is resourcefulness.
That is true. My laziness inspired my resourcefulness, putting it
There
to
you
good
go.
use.
The most efficient people are lazy people, is what we say in tech.
That I can understand that because you just don't want to do it, so you have to find a better way.
Yep.
Um, Another kitchen witchery is, drying herbs, or if you have a green thumb, you could also grow your own herbs because that is I feel like those two go hand in hand. Green
Yeah.
witchcraft coming into play in the kitchen. So if you have your green thumb, you can grow your own herbs. I loved growing herbs, and I swear my oregano and lemon balm bush got huge. They were massive when we lived further down south. Um, so yeah, if you can grow it, you can dry them and use them in your cooking and all that love, that nurturing that went into growing it, it's there. And you can tell when you use those in spell work or kitchen witchery. So, yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed because I like sourcing my own herbs and for stuff that I use in witchcraft because you know the entire process of what it's been through. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with buying the herbs that you need. Not everyone has the time or energy to do this. I personally like doing it. Like I'm so thrilled. I have rose bushes again, so I can get my own
Ooh.
rose petals dried out. I have a batch drying right now.
Do they have
Um,
thorns too? Because you can use those too.
yes, they do. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I liked growing the herbs, and then I would just go out and I have a big wicker basket that I would take with me, and just old time, sit by the herbs and clip off the ones that I needed, and go in and basically would spend an afternoon setting them out to dry and hanging them up by my desk, and it was relaxing in a way.
Yeah.
So when I had the time,
Meditative
um,
almost.
yeah, it was, because you have to, depending on how you're drying them, because you want to wash them before you dry them, and sometimes people use a dehydrator, sometimes they use an oven. I went the old-fashioned way and just hung them up above, but I put them in like the brown paper bags so they weren't like falling all over my desk.
Yeah. I remember when I had those big bushes, I had like oregano, lemon balm, basil, I think like garden sage. And I actually made a shelf, like a floating shelf, and I put hooks on the bottom specifically so I could hang up my herbs to dry over my counter. So,
Nice.
and those are just like little screw in hooks that I would just hang my little bundles on. Boop, boop, boop. And it just gave the kitchen such a vibe, I will say.
Yes,
Love
definitely.
that. Yeah.
So yeah, if you have the time and energy to dry your own herbs, then it is definitely a fulfilling thing to do, and it is one way because you can put your intentions in. I mean, you're spending all of this time nurturing the herbs, cutting them, drying them. You're spending a lot of time. So just being thinking about what you're doing and setting
Yeah.
your intentions as you go can really help infuse those herbs with your intentions.
Yeah.
Whether you use it for baking or witchcraft
Yeah. Or
or
both.
both.
So that was our witchy tip for kitchen witchery. So we will jump back into editing, which now we're going to look at the flip side of if we're not doing self editing and we decide, okay, we're going to hire someone, right? One of the benefits of it is your work has another set of eyes on it and they are a professional, right? At least that's what we hope. So they will catch the mistakes. So having those extra set of eyes can make a huge difference in how polished your book is.
Yeah, because and getting out of your echo chamber, as you put it earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, any getting outside your echo chamber is going to having that fresh set of eyes, because they don't know what you intended to write, like your brain does. They only know what they're seeing on the page, so they're going to be more likely to catch those mistakes.
Yeah. So fewer mistakes, it's going to be more polished. And then, with that benefit of having an editor, you could end up in one of those categories of, oh my gosh, this book was so beautifully written. It was so great, right? Because having that editor, if you have an editor that is trying to help amplify your voice, that can make a huge difference in how your readers read it. So having that editor go through and really finesse everything for you, and then you can go back and fix it the way they tell you to, it could end up being a masterpiece. Who knows? We would all hope so, when you're paying that much. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, definitely having that help can elevate the work to the next level. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying it can't be just as good if you're self-editing, but it's a higher chance
Yeah.
that it's going to be elevated to that next level of having a professional that has spent a lot of time doing this specific job. and working with other authors to help, because they're also going to they're going to be in the know. Sorry, they're going to be in the know of what books are out there right now, because they're literally editing these books before they go out.
Oh
So
yeah.
they're going to be knowing what's popular. They're going to be knowing what's trendy. They're going to be knowing what people don't like right now and what they do like. So that is another benefit of having that extra set of eyes, because that an editor is going to be very current on what's
Yeah.
in the market right now.
And that's not to say you have to do what is trending. We've always said that. Like, if you don't want to do what's trending, you don't have to. If that's not what you want to do and that's not the route for your book, then you don't have to. But there is that if you are wanting to stay current with the trends and what people are liking and what they don't like, I mean, we see book icks all the time coming across our feeds of things or words or scenes or tropes that are coming in and out. So having that editor will help with things like that. Maybe not tropes, but the word choices and stuff like that, depending on what editor you're getting or what kind of editing.
Yeah.
But of course, with every benefit, there are drawbacks. And with hiring an editor, the biggest one, the price. It, again, it can cost anywhere from a few $100s to thousands of dollars. Again, depending on how big your novel is and what you're hiring them for, you could hire them as a copy editor or a line editor. So if you're doing multiple rounds of editing with an editor, like you're starting at developmental and going all the way through till, the line editing, that adds up and it's expensive. And even, editors that are like, oh, I'm new to editing and my prices are lower than what the industry standard is, you're still looking at paying several $100s. So keep that in mind. If you have the budget for it, that's great. But
Yeah.
in this economy, I don't think the price is, yeah, we're struggling with the price.
Yeah, I think I follow one editor online on Instagram just because she does give out good tips in general, because she's also an author. You're not going to find many editors that are authors nowadays. But she for like the basic, very very basic editing, it was like 5 cents a word, I think.
Oh,
And
wow.
then when you got into like the premium, like line editing, it was 15 cents a word, I believe.
Wow.
Which for my novel, which is over 100,000 words, easy,
Yeah.
it kind of, I would be paying big bucks for that. Which, again, we're not saying they aren't worth it. We're not
Yeah.
saying that we're undervaluing what they're offering, but our finances are probably not going to allow for it with everything, because we both have kids, we both have pets, we both are trying to make it through this current hellscape. Um,
Big yep on that one.
yeah, so while I would love to be able to hire her as an editor, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
And so that's the highest I think I've heard for an editor. I've even seen things as low as, I think it was like point, it wasn't even a penny per word. It was like less than that.
maybe,
I'm not sure. But I was like, dang. And so, when you're looking at it, you're like, oh, that's so cheap. It's not even a penny a word. And then, your novels, 100,000 words, you're like, oh, that's $1,000.
yeah,
That's still expensive, even if the price is lower. So there is that. So that is I would say, one of the biggest drawbacks. With that, if you and your editor don't have the same style, or you just may not mesh well with what they're giving you, they could alter the way things are written to where it doesn't sound like your work anymore. I don't hear of this happening often when they are legitimate professional editors, but in our current landscape, a lot of people are trying to take advantage of indie authors, or I would say, yeah, indie authors mainly, because since if you're a published author with a publisher, they have their own editors. But there's a lot of people that want to take advantage of indie authors and get that $1,000, $2,000 from you and say, yes, I've edited so many books, blah blah blah, and they take your money and you may not see it, or the work that they do just absolutely is completely not what you wanted because they're scam artists. So
Yeah. Yeah.
keep that in mind. There is that chance too.
And even if they aren't scam artists, if they're coming back with with choices that you think change the story more than you think it should be changed, keep in mind you don't have to take their advice. You are paying for it. So, I would seriously consider it. But also do keep in mind this is your story. They are not going to give you a yay or a nay on publishing it. That is your choice as an indie author anyway. Um, so just keeping that in mind when you do hire, if you hire an editor. But again, definitely, try and get some kind of references, get past work that you can verify, make sure they're legitimate. Um, I know there are some platforms out there that help legitimize these editors that make them more reliable. I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. Probably some going downhill fast, but
I can tell.
finding a way to verify the anyone before you hand them money
Yeah.
is a good call on the internet. Period.
Yes. Always vet everyone you work with. If they say that they worked with this author on this book, write that author. Ask them. I'm sure they would be more than willing to give you a yes or no. I mean, it's not like you're asking for them to write a whole essay for you. But I feel like most indie authors, if another indie author came to them and was like, hey, I found this editor, they claim to have worked with you. Did you like working with them? Did you work with them? Just those two questions can give you so much information that you may need on whether or not this is a legitimate editor or not. So definitely vet anyone you work with, whether they're editors, cover designers. I mean, it's never a bad idea, especially with the scams.
I got lucky with Alex. Not gonna lie, because I didn't.
Oh,
I didn't vet Alex. I just trusted him.
Alex has literally
I got
been
lucky.
like, what the fuck is the word? Sorry. She is just like this hidden gem. There we go. She was like a hidden gem, and
Yeah.
you just happened to pluck her out at the right time. Like, oh my god.
I'm so happy I found her. Anyway.
Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do.
I will say I did look up her email, or not her email, her website when you sent it to me before I had agreed to work with Alex. I had looked up her stuff. So I did do a little bit, but then I also had you also telling me what was going on. So I was like, okay, I feel like I'm safe in working with her. And then you were like, yeah, she only has one spot left. I was like, okay, I'm moving my ass. I'm getting it done. So I don't think there's any more that I can think of as of drawbacks.
No. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the price. It's making sure that it's an editor that you are comfortable working with, and it's making sure that they're legit. To me, are not even drawbacks per se, but
Precautions.
obstacles to mount. precautions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, before you move forward with working with them.
Yeah. So that would bring us to book reviews. I do have one. It's like hit or miss, but I'm trying to keep up to have enough book reviews. I probably won't have one next episode because the book we're reading is this thick boy, and it may not look massive, but this is basically
But it
printed
is.
on Bible paper. It is so thin. So yes, this doesn't look big, but it is a whopping 724 pages. So I'm also listening to audiobooks to hopefully keep a book review ready. So the book I had finished, I was scrolling through Audible and I didn't have any credit, so I went to one of their free in-house ebooks or audiobooks. And one that was recommended to me was Rich Girl Summer by Lily Chu, which was really cute. It was narrated by Philippa Sue and Stephen Pasquale. And this follows Valerie Pong, and she runs a, how did she put it? It wasn't like a funeral business. It was more so throwing celebrations of life for people after they had passed for the families. So she ended up getting this super big gig with this billionaire family that has this huge reputation. And real quickly, we learn it goes south fast thanks to some gas station sushi. Everything goes wrong at this celebration of life for this rich man's father. And like I said, it just goes down the toilet real fast. And somehow, this man that purchased or set up the celebration of life for his father that had passed finds out that after his father passed, going through documents and stuff, that he has a daughter that he never knew about, based off a summer fling he had when he was like 17, 18 years old. So, of course, the father finds out and gives this lady hush money and is like, you don't know my son. This never happened, type of thing. So this man never knew until his father died and found the paperwork that was signed and checks and stuff. So he then goes to this lady, Valerie Pong, who ruined his celebration of life, and goes, hey, you're Chinese. Can you pretend to be my daughter while we go to this rich area for the summer? Like, you just have to help me find out who is hiding this information from me. I want to know who helped my dad cover this up. So it was super good. It was a very interesting story. It kept me hooked the whole way. There is a romance subplot, and it is, I would say it was just a run-of-the-mill average, romance subplot in a contemporary story. I will say, no smut, fade to black. I have been having the worst luck with smut lately. And I remember sitting there, I'm like literally knitting, waiting in the pickup line to pick up my kids, because that's the only time I can really listen to books is before they get in the car. And they're talking about like getting hot and heavy, and then cuts to black, fades to black, and it's the next morning. I was like, what? So if you're into smut, probably not the best. But if you like trying to unravel the mystery, which it's very clear there's two main suspects, which ends up being the man's siblings. So it kind of goes back and forth between those two on what. So you're kind of unraveling a little bit of a mystery along with a little contemporary romance. So if you're interested in that, I gave it like a 3.5 star. It was good. It kept me entertained. It wasn't great, and because there was no smut, it got a lower mark for me. But it was a good, cute book, especially for it being free on Audible. It was nice.
That's good to know that my book will be getting a half star lower because there's no smut from you.
No, I can't rate yours lower because you've sent me the smut on the side.
that that is true. I have sent you
So
the side smut.
I have gotten the smut on the side. So I, and with a potential plot line happening that I know we've talked about, I can sense there's something in the making there.
Maybe I need to keep that in mind as I move forward. Actually,
You're like, oh, I forgot about that.
well, we're not there yet. Technically,
Yeah,
so
that's still much later, but
yeah,
I'll remind you.
we'll get there. I'm sure you will.
I'm like, don't forget about this.
Uh, you just did.
Yeah.
So my book review is a little drier. I went back to nonfiction, which it's it's kind of a fuzzy area for me to call this nonfiction because it's mythology, which so I know I talked about the pagan portals last time, and I actually just finished one, and I'm like halfway through the other one, so they're kind of covering the same topic. But the first one is Pagan Portals, The Morrigan, Meeting the Great Queens by Morgan Daimler. And then there was kind of a follow-up, Pagan Portals, Raven Goddess, going deeper with the Morrigan, also by Morgan Daimler. Again, very, very short little books, less than 100 pages, and but very informative and very good introductory. It has a good bibliography at the end so that you can go find the text that she's referencing. Pretty cheap to buy paperback. Like it was $12 for the first one,
Okay.
and I'm sure you could find it cheaper reused. But it's very well researched, and she has very good recommendations in the forwards for these books because technically she is not Irish. She is an Irish pagan, but she's not hereditarily Irish, if that made any sense at all.
I got it.
But yeah, it's covering the mythology of the Morrigan, and it is covering the Morrigan herself as well as the triad that makes up the Morrigan and what goddesses kind of compose that triad. And she goes over like the mythology, specifically where they appear in the mythology. She appear in the mythology, what names they go by, how they interact with other people in the mythology, and modern day interpretations of her. The second book, Raven Goddess, is diving a little deeper into kind of like some of the misinterpretations that have come up in the recent years with the Morrigan, and how she's been kind of muddled up with some of the other goddesses, which historically is not accurate, which I appreciate because,
Yeah.
again, like we said, check but verify. You can only trust internet sources so much, and I do trust these books because Morgan is giving you literal references and where to find these passages in the mythology. And she even gives you like who translated this particular piece of the mythology, so you can go look up their translation if you want. Which I fully intend to buy my own version of the translation, so I have it on hand, but that's besides the point. So, like I said, good introductory, short, sweet, gives you a good basis on how to go forward and interact with the Morrigan in today's world. Really, it's a pretty short book review because they're not real long books.
Yeah.
They're pretty straightforward.
That's cool though that they go over like the misconceptions, because I feel like There's so many, especially nowadays with
Yes.
access to everyone and everything at all times. So that's nice.
And one thing that I actually enjoyed in the Raven Goddess book is she specifically goes over what people call dark goddesses and why that is misleading, because she's like, you have to remember, yes, they are a goddess of death and battle, but you have to remember that in the time period when she was really being worshipped, that was such a different concept than it is today. I mean, death and battle happened every day. It was your neighbors, you're raising cattle one day and charging in the battle the next. It was, the cattle raids and everything. So she was like, just because that is part of their aspect doesn't mean that that's a bad thing, which is how a lot of people are interpreting it these days. So just something to think about. And that's something that I've always tried to keep in context too, is no matter which deity you're working with, you need to remember that most of the deities, if you're pulling from their original myth and lore, is written in a very different context than today.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I've always thought of the term dark goddesses isn't so much as like, I know some people hear that and they're like, ooh, scary, bad. And me, I'm like, no, they just deal with the darker topics of life. Because even Hecate is considered a dark goddess. And I'm like, why? Because she doesn't take shit from anyone? Like, what? Like, she's literally a protector of women and children. But she's also the goddess of witchcraft and the crossroads. And she is one of the few goddesses that have access to the underworld. So I'm like, I mean, she is scary, but not like that, the way
anyone could be scary.
Yeah. I mean, even Aphrodite could be fucking scary. So
yeah,
just because they don't look sweet and angelic on the outside doesn't always mean that they're bad.
It's
angels are.
It's taking Alex's "Don't judge a book by its cover" in a different way.
Yeah, literally though, that's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, that brings us to the end of our episode of editing, whether you should hire or self-edit. So you can find us at writingwithwitches.com, and you can find us on TikTok, Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Discord, right? And YouTube, which is probably where you're watching us, or you're listening to us somewhere else. You can also find us on YouTube. At Writing with Witches, we have an email at writingwithwitches@gmail.com, which all of it will be linked below in a link tree, which is, I have mine down below as well. You can find me on all the aforementioned places as author Nicole Autumn. I have my own website, again, not a pretty URL, so it's linked below. My email, all that good fun jazz. So you can find me wherever.
You can find me as Leona Urbanski, primarily Instagram and Facebook, and I do have my Substack set up, so if you would like to subscribe to that, you can find that in my link tree. My book reviews, you can find me on WordPress, Facebook, and I also am trying to get video reviews back up on YouTube, and I also do reviews on Amazon and Goodreads. You can find me there. Yeah, that's about it for me. And go to my link tree.
There's a link tree all down below for each one of us.
Link tree. Yes, indeed.
And for next episode, we will be talking about final revisions. So that will be fun, even though neither of us are there yet. But we will be soon. We will be there soon. So thank you all for watching, and I hope you guys come back and you enjoyed this episode. We will talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.